Hello and welcome to this short video where I'm going to be talking about endpoint assessment and specifically what the endpoint assessment is for the dental nurse standard. So endpoint assessment is an independent assessment that takes place right at the end of your apprenticeship. The endpoint assessment is there to holistically assess the knowledge, skills and behaviours that you've gathered right the way through the training and the learning part of your apprenticeship with your employer and your training provider. So the endpoint assessment is delivered by someone independent of that training. So you can kind of view it a little bit like a driving test in the way that when you undertake a driving test, you've never met your driving examiner before. It's someone completely independent who hasn't had anything to do with the learning of the driving that you've been doing. And that way they're able to make an independent judgment right at the end as to whether or not you're competent against the skills that you need. So EPA is similar in that respect to the driving test. The difference is that the endpoint assessment is going to be assessing you against the knowledge, skills and behaviours contained within the dental nurse standard. So the way that they're going to assess that on the dental nurse standard is they're going to undertake an observation of practice with you in the workplace. That takes 60 minutes and there's a 10-minute Q&A at the end of that. And then there's also going to be a scenario-based professional discussion. Which takes 40 minutes plus or minus 10%, and you've got 30 minutes to prep before, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second. So the observation of practice is going to take place in the workplace. So the dental independent endpoint assessor is going to come to your place of work and observe you, conducting your daily tasks and undergoing your daily routines in the workplace. So the observation is assessed against specific criteria, and these criteria are detailed in the Institute for Apprenticeships standard and assessment plan that you can find on the Institute's website. So there's that 10-minute question and answer session as well, just at the end of the observation. And that's really there just to probe a little bit further, just in case there were specific criteria that need to be seen that didn't occur naturally throughout that time when the observation was going on. Because, you know, with the best will in the world, you can plan for everything, but you know, something could happen during that hour that's booked in that means that you're not able to fully demonstrate all of those criteria. So that's why that question and answer session's there at the end, just to act as a bit of a mop-up and for the independent assessor to really query those things that didn't occur naturally with you, just to give you the best chance at passing through that observation. So the second assessment component is the scenario-based professional discussion. The format of this is 30 minutes prep time, in which time you'll be given a scenario to read through. So you'll be able to read that through and take some notes. The scenario will present you with a situation that allows you to discuss with your IEPA what you've read or what you've seen, how the situation could have occurred, and what you would do in these circumstances. So, you know, the situation could involve something that you would generally kind of undertake within your role. And again, it's assessed against specific criteria that you can find in that assessment plan. So you can bring notes to the professional discussion, but these notes are restricted to examples of situations that have occurred in the workplace. But again, they can be mapped to specific criteria. So one thing that I would recommend is just having a look at that assessment plan and the standard, and looking at the way that the assessment criteria are split out between the observation of practice and the scenario-based professional discussion, because that way you can look at it and you can think, okay, so I know what I need to demonstrate in the observation, I know what I need to demonstrate within the professional discussion. Linking in with that, you know, it's really, really good to have a full understanding of the standard and the assessment plan, and also the guidance documents that EPA Plus have produced. We've produced quite a lot of documentation just to aid you in the endpoint assessment. So, you know, there's some documentation that might have considerations for an observation and the kind of things that you need to be thinking about when you're doing an observation. Likewise for the professional discussion, it's a two-way conversation, not a question and answer session. So it's full of useful tips like that. The next tip would be it's really, really good practice to link in the GDC standards to those scenarios for the professional discussion. It shows really, really good competence and a thorough understanding of those GDC standards that are really, really important. Secondly, it's good to reflect on working examples throughout the professional discussion, because that really shows that you're able to reflect on those working examples and then put them into practice in future scenarios to continually be improving your practice. And the final tip is, do just make sure that you follow all policies and procedures when you're completing a face-to-face observation. So make sure that you are abiding by internal policies and also professional practice policies, just to make sure that that face-to-face observation can go as smoothly as it can. So I hope you found that helpful, and good luck with your endpoint assessment.